Have you ever noticed an itch that just won't go away, no matter what you do? It's easy to dismiss it as dry skin or just a little irritation, but sometimes that persistent itch can be a quiet warning your body is trying to send you, especially as we get older. I remember feeling that same way, brushing off those strange itches, thinking it was just part of aging. But the truth is, some of these itches aren't as harmless as they seem. Maybe you've experienced waking up scratching your legs, your back, or even your scalp, wondering why nothing seems to soothe it. I've been there, feeling frustrated and unsure if I should even mention it to my doctor. The good news is, there's no need to panic or feel overwhelmed. There are simple, gentle steps you can take that could make all the difference in catching something early, before it becomes serious. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 specific itchy spots on the body that might signal more than just dry skin. These aren't random itches. They're subtle signs your body uses to communicate, often months before other symptoms appear. By paying attention to these signals, you can protect your health in ways you might never have imagined. So, have you ever noticed any unusual itching that just won't quit? Share your story below, because you deserve to live your best, healthiest life, and sometimes the smallest signs are the most important. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. 1. Persistent itching on the lower legs. It usually started quietly, like a faint whisper late in the evening, an itch along the front of my shins that just wouldn't quit. At first, I did what most of us do. Reached for some lotion, thought maybe it was the dry air, or blamed the new laundry detergent. After all, aging brings its share of little discomforts and skin that isn't as forgiving as it used to be. But as days turned into weeks, I found myself scratching my lower legs at all hours, especially as the sun went down. There was no rash, no redness, no sign of irritation that I could point to. Just this relentless, deep-seated itch that seemed to live somewhere beneath the surface, out of reach and immune to every cream and remedy I tried. If you've ever experienced something like this, you're not alone. I've heard from so many friends at church and neighbors at the senior center who've shrugged off similar sensations. Just another odd thing about getting older, we'd say, laughing it off over coffee or after bingo. But inside, it gnawed at me, the sense that maybe, just maybe, there was more to it. The thing is, we're not taught to be suspicious of a little itch. We're taught to tough it out, to not make a fuss, especially when the world expects us to grin and bear the little discomforts that come with age. Yet, behind these harmless-seeming symptoms, our bodies may be quietly trying to get our attention. For seniors, especially those over 65, persistent itching in the lower legs, particularly on the shins and calves, with no obvious cause, can be one of those small, easily ignored signals. It doesn't behave like regular dry skin. You notice it doesn't respond to moisturizers or to switching up your soaps. The itch lingers. It's most annoying at night, right when you're trying to rest, or early in the morning before your day has even started. Sometimes it can keep you awake, robbing you of the sleep that's already become more precious with age. That's what happened to George, a 75-year-old retiree from Ohio, who first noticed his relentless itch during the winter. I thought it was just the cold weather, he told me, but the more I tried to fix it, the worse it got. I'd be up at midnight with an ice pack on my legs. Like so many others, he visited his primary care doctor, who suggested eczema, or maybe a mild allergic reaction. But there were no patches, no peeling, no bumps. The skin on his legs looked completely normal. When the itch kept up, his doctor finally ordered some routine blood work, just to rule out anything serious. What George didn't know, and what most of us never expect, is that sometimes persistent, unexplained itching in the lower legs can be linked to underlying conditions like blood cancers, especially lymphoma. Lymphoma is a cancer that begins in the lymphatic system, which is a vital part of our body's immune defenses. As lymphoma cells multiply, they release chemicals into the bloodstream that can irritate nerve endings and cause what's called paraneoplastic itch, a deep, almost burning sensation that no amount of scratching can relieve. This kind of itch is stubborn. It can go on for months before any other symptoms appear, and it often comes and goes in waves. Doctors have started to recognize these patterns because so many lymphoma patients report the same story. An itch that won't quit, usually in the lower limbs, long before they notice a lump or feel ill in any other way. When George's blood test came back, it showed higher than normal white blood cell counts. That result led to more scans, which revealed some swollen lymph nodes in his chest. The diagnosis, Hodgkin's lymphoma, was a shock, but the itch had given him an early warning. Because he listened to his body, George started treatment before the cancer had a chance to spread further, giving him a much better shot at recovery. Stories like George's aren't rare. Doctors and researchers now know that about 1 in 3 people with certain types of lymphoma experience unexplained itching as an early symptom. It isn't something most of us talk about, but if you ever find yourself applying creams night after night, only to keep scratching at the same spot with no relief, it's worth listening to that whisper. Especially if you notice the itch getting worse at night, or if it's accompanied by other subtle changes, night sweats, unexplained fatigue, or losing weight without trying. There are other causes for persistent lower leg itching, of course, especially as we get older. Poor circulation, certain medications, and dry winter air can all play a role. But the difference with lymphoma-related itching is how resistant it is to normal treatments. The skin might look perfectly healthy, yet you feel the urge to scratch deep beneath the surface. And because the itch comes from the chemicals circulating in your bloodstream, not from anything on the skin itself, even the best lotions won't make a dent. I think back to all the times I brushed off minor symptoms in my own life or told loved ones to just put some cream on it. It's natural to want to find a simple explanation, especially when you're busy or you don't want to bother your doctor with just an itch. But the truth is, you know your body better than anyone else. If something feels off, it's always worth asking questions, even if it feels embarrassing or trivial. For seniors, especially, our bodies have a way of speaking in quieter tones than they once did. Aches and pains, lumps and bumps, they don't always show up right away. Instead, you might notice a subtle change, like a persistent itch that becomes part of your daily routine. When that happens, it's a sign to pay closer attention. Bring it up at your next checkup. Ask about blood work, and mention any other changes you've noticed, no matter how small they may seem. And remember, persistent itching on the lower legs isn't always cancer. Most of the time, it will turn out to be something minor and easily treated. But by listening to your body and not dismissing those subtle signs, you're giving yourself the best chance to catch something early. That's the real gift of aging: wisdom, experience, and the courage to take charge of your health. If you're reading this and thinking, "That sounds like me," don't hesitate to act. Keep a little diary of when the itch happens, how long it lasts, and what you've tried. Notice if it gets worse at certain times of day, or if it wakes you up at night. And if it's been going on for weeks without improvement, especially if you notice other changes like night sweats, swollen lymph nodes, or weight loss, talk to your doctor. You're not overreacting. You're looking out for yourself. Sometimes, the body whispers before it shouts. For so many of us, learning to listen to those whispers, a persistent itch here, a tiredness there, can make all the difference in living not just longer but better. So, don't write it off. The next time your legs start itching for no reason, take a moment. Listen to what your body is saying. It might be nothing, but it might also be your chance to catch something important before it grows. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. And if you do find yourself going through extra tests or waiting on results, remember, you're not alone. So many of us walk this path, supporting each other, sharing our stories, and encouraging one another to keep paying attention, to keep asking questions, and to never lose hope. You deserve answers. And you deserve the peace of mind that comes with knowing you listened when your body first spoke up. 2. itching between the shoulder blades or upper back. It often begins as nothing more than a faint tickle, just out of reach, nestled between your shoulder blades, somewhere in that tricky spot you can never quite get to without some elaborate arm twisting or the help of a wooden back scratcher. For weeks, maybe months, you notice yourself reaching back while watching TV or lying in bed, rubbing against the edge of a chair, or asking a spouse to just scratch right there, a little to the left. Most days, you don't even mention it to anyone. Why would you? Back itches are common enough, especially as we age and our skin loses some of its moisture and elasticity. But then, as the days go by, you notice that the itch isn't going away. It's not the kind that comes and goes, the kind that disappears after a quick scratch or a generous lather of lotion. No, this itch is persistent, almost stubborn. It lives deep beneath the surface as if it's coming from inside your body rather than on your skin. Sometimes it feels almost ghostly, impossible to pinpoint, and more annoying because of it. You try switching soaps, washing your shirts with sensitive detergent, or swapping pillows, but nothing helps. The itch lingers, often waking you up at night or distracting you during the day. I remember talking to Linda, a spry 70-year-old grandmother from Minnesota, who shared her story over coffee one chilly spring morning. I started having this strange itch on my upper back, right between the shoulder blades. At first, I thought it was just my bra strap, or maybe I was sitting funny in my favorite recliner. But after a few weeks, I realized it wasn't going away. No matter what I did, the itch was there, every night, like clockwork. Linda tried everything: new lotions, softer shirts, and even stopped wearing her favorite necklace, thinking maybe the metal was to blame. She went through bottles of skin cream, bought a new mattress, and at one point even considered cutting her hair shorter, wondering if her ponytail was the culprit. But nothing worked. The itch seemed to have a mind of its own. The turning point came when Linda started to notice she was feeling unusually tired, and her urine looked darker than normal. She chalked it up to not drinking enough water, but her daughter insisted she visit her doctor just in case. During the appointment, Linda mentioned the persistent itch on her upper back almost as an afterthought, something she'd nearly left out, thinking it was too trivial to mention. But her doctor listened carefully. He asked about other symptoms: fatigue, any weight loss, and any changes in her digestion. Then he ordered some blood tests. The results showed that Linda's liver enzymes were higher than they should be, prompting an ultrasound, which revealed a small tumor pressing on her bile duct, originating from the pancreas. Linda's itch, as it turned out, was the first and only warning her body gave her before any pain or visible jaundice appeared. This is something doctors have observed in many older adults. Pancreatic cancer, in particular, can be a silent, sneaky disease. By the time most people notice symptoms like pain or digestive issues, it can already be advanced. But sometimes, the first clue is an itch, deep, persistent, and focused between the shoulder blades or upper back. The reason: when a tumor begins to grow near the pancreas and starts to block the bile ducts, bile salts can build up in the bloodstream. As these chemicals circulate, they can irritate the sensory nerves in areas with dense nerve endings, like the back. The result: a nagging, unrelenting itch that isn't soothed by scratching or skin care. It's such a small thing, an itch. And yet, it's the body's way of waving a red flag, quietly and gently, before the more dramatic symptoms take hold. For older adults, these signals can be easy to miss. After all, who wants to go to the doctor for just a back itch? It can feel silly, or even embarrassing, especially if you've already tried every over-the-counter remedy you can think of. But stories like Linda's show why it's so important to listen. Persistent itching in this specific area, particularly if it seems to come from beneath the skin, is different from the everyday itchiness we all experience from time to time. It's not caused by friction, dry air, or your favorite wool sweater. And it often doesn't go away with any of the usual tricks. In many cases, this itch appears months before any other symptom. giving you a unique window of opportunity to catch a serious problem while it's still manageable. Of course, not every itch means cancer. There are plenty of harmless reasons your upper back might itch. Dry skin, mild allergies, even old injuries or tension in the muscles. But what sets cancer-related itching apart is its persistence, its depth, and its resistance to normal skin treatments. If you find yourself reaching for the same spot night after night, and especially if you notice other changes, fatigue, darker urine, pale stools, or unexplained weight loss, it's worth mentioning to your doctor. Even if you feel a little silly, even if you think it's probably nothing, there's a comfort in knowing that you're not alone. Many people, especially seniors, have experienced mysterious itches or small, nagging symptoms that turned out to be something more. I've spoken with folks who waited months before mentioning it, only to wish they'd brought it up sooner. There's a wisdom that comes with age. The knowledge that your body is worth listening to, even when it's speaking quietly. It can help to keep a little journal. Note when the itch started, how long it lasts, whether anything makes it better or worse, and whether you notice any other symptoms at the same time. Bring those notes with you to your doctor's visit. A good doctor will never make you feel foolish for advocating for your health. They'll be grateful you trusted your instincts and brought it up. And if your doctor suggests blood tests or imaging studies, don't panic. Most of the time, the answer will be something simple and treatable. But on the chance that it's something more, you'll be glad you listened early. For many serious conditions, especially pancreatic and liver cancers, early detection can make a world of difference in your treatment options and your quality of life. For those of us who grew up in a time when talking about our aches and pains wasn't encouraged, it can feel like a big step to bring up something as minor as an itch. But think of it this way: your body has taken care of you for decades. Now, your job is to return the favor. Pay attention to those little whispers. Permit yourself to ask questions, to demand answers, and to pursue peace of mind. I've often said to friends, if something doesn't feel right, don't wait. There's a kind of bravery in speaking up for yourself, in trusting that small symptoms matter. Whether you're a fan of afternoon walks, a lover of crosswords, or someone who finds joy in tending the backyard garden, you deserve to feel well enough to enjoy every moment. So, if you find yourself scratching that same spot on your upper back day after day, if the itch feels like it's coming from deep inside, don't ignore it. Watch for those other subtle signs: fatigue, changes in your bathroom habits, or any new discomfort that lingers. And most importantly, give yourself credit for noticing and taking action. You are your body's best advocate. The next time your hand reaches around, almost unconsciously, to the spot between your shoulder blades, take a moment. Ask yourself if this is something new, something unusual, something that isn't responding to your usual fixes. Don't let embarrassment or doubt keep you from seeking help. Sometimes, the smallest signals hold the greatest importance. In the end, our bodies are always trying to talk to us. With age comes not just aches and pains, but also a deeper intuition, a sense of when things are just a little off. Trust that feeling. Share it with someone you trust. Your health is worth it, and you are worth the effort it takes to listen, speak up, and find answers. You never know. Something as simple as an itch might just be your body's way of giving you the chance to live better, longer, and with more peace of mind. And you, more than anyone, deserve that chance. 3. Itchy scalp without visible flakes or dandruff. It's funny how the smallest things can get under your skin, sometimes quite literally. For years, I never thought much about an itchy scalp. It was just one of those annoyances that seemed to come and go, especially with the changing seasons or after spending a little too long in the sun. But last fall, something felt different. There was no snow in my hair, no flakes on my pillow, and none of the telltale signs of dandruff. Yet, the urge to scratch was there, always, hovering just beneath the surface of my skin. It started as a tickle, innocent enough, nothing to worry about. I'd be watching the morning news, sipping my coffee, when suddenly I'd find my fingers wandering up to my head, gently rubbing or giving a quick scratch above my left ear, or sometimes right at the crown. I tried to ignore it at first, blaming it on the dry autumn air or maybe my shampoo. Surely it would pass, I thought, as these things usually do. But weeks went by, and the itch not only stayed, it seemed to wander, sometimes on the side of my scalp, sometimes at the back, sometimes right at the hairline. I changed shampoos, tried a moisturizing conditioner, and even skipped wearing my favorite old ball cap, suspecting it might be trapping sweat. Nothing helped. There were no red patches, no bumps, no flakes of skin when I checked the mirror. The scalp looked perfectly normal, just a little older perhaps, with more gray than before, and some thinning around the temples. I remember mentioning it to my friend Martha over lunch at our local diner. She laughed, sharing that she'd gone through a phase of mystery itching last year, and chalked it up to stress. We joked about how our bodies seemed to find new ways to surprise us as we got older. But beneath my smile, I felt a growing sense of frustration. This wasn't like any other itch I'd had before. It was deeper, almost like a crawling sensation under the skin, and nothing seemed to make it go away. Not even the old trick of dabbing a little cold water or gently massaging the spot. The oddest part was how the itch didn't respond to any of the usual remedies. No matter what scalp oils or anti-dandruff products I tried, it lingered. If anything, the sensation would grow stronger in the afternoons, when I was tired or after coming home from errands. At night, sometimes it even woke me up. The next morning, I'd find no evidence of scratching, no broken skin, just the same nagging sensation, invisible but insistent. Looking back, I wish I'd spoken up about it sooner. But like so many older folks, I shrugged it off, not wanting to be a bother at the doctor's office or make a mountain out of a molehill. After all, how serious could an itchy scalp be? It turns out that sometimes the smallest symptoms can be the most important. When my annual checkup came around, I almost forgot to mention it at all. It was only as the doctor was about to wrap up that I tossed it in. Oh, and by the way, I've had this weird scalp itch for a while now. No flakes, no rash. Just this odd, crawling feeling. Is that just old age? She paused, looked up from her notes, and asked a few gentle questions. Had I noticed any changes in my energy? Was I bruising more easily? Any fevers or swelling? I shrugged, saying I'd felt a bit more tired lately, but nothing dramatic. She nodded and suggested running a few blood tests, just to be thorough, she said. I didn't think much of it until a week later when the nurse called to say some of my blood counts were a bit off. Nothing to panic over, but enough to prompt a second look. A few more tests, a referral to a specialist, and eventually, a bone marrow biopsy revealed something I never expected: early-stage chronic lymphocytic leukemia. It was a shock, but strangely it was also a relief. The mystery itch, it turned out, was my body's way of letting me know something deeper was going on. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. As I learned later, persistent itching of the scalp, without any visible reason like dandruff or a rash, can sometimes be a sign of blood-related cancers, especially in seniors. It's not the kind of itch that goes away with a new shampoo or even with patience. It tends to feel more like tingling or burning, almost as if the nerves themselves are being agitated from within. Leukemia and some other cancers can trigger immune system changes, causing low-level inflammation and nerve irritation, long before any classic symptoms show up. I wish someone had told me that before. The idea that an itchy scalp could be the first clue in a chain of events leading to early detection and treatment seems almost unbelievable, but it's true. I've since met others, both online and in my support group, who went through nearly the same thing. An itch that wouldn't quit, a scalp that looked perfectly healthy, and then a surprising diagnosis that made everything fall into place. Of course, most itchy scalps are nothing to worry about. For many, it is just dry air, a new hair product, or the gentle thinning that comes with age. But what sets this type of itch apart is how stubborn it is. how it lingers for weeks or months, moving around but never really leaving. Sometimes, it comes with other small changes. You might notice you bruise more easily, or you're more tired than usual, or maybe you've had a few nights of unexplained sweats. If you ever find yourself with an itchy scalp that just won't go away, and there's nothing to see or feel when you check in the mirror, don't brush it off. It can be helpful to ask a loved one or your hairdresser to take a look at your scalp for anything you might not be able to see. Keep track of how long it lasts, what you've tried, and if you notice any other changes. Bring it up with your doctor, even if it feels a little embarrassing or trivial. You know your own body better than anyone. You've learned to live through aches and pains, ups and downs, but you also know when something just doesn't feel quite right. That's the wisdom of age, the intuition to listen when your body is speaking softly. For me, taking that small step to mention the itch made all the difference. Early detection gave me more treatment options, and I felt empowered knowing I had listened to my body's quiet message. I often share my story with others now, hoping they'll do the same. We don't always get dramatic symptoms or flashing warning signs. Sometimes, it's just a gentle itch that refuses to leave. So, if you're reading this and you've been quietly fighting that same invisible battle on your scalp, please don't ignore it. Maybe it's nothing. But maybe it's your body asking for a little extra attention, a gentle nudge to get checked, just in case. Remember, you deserve peace of mind, and you deserve answers. Whether you're a grandparent braiding your grandchild's hair, a lifelong gardener tending your favorite roses, or simply someone enjoying the breeze through the window, your comfort and well-being matter. Never hesitate to speak up, ask questions, and seek help. Sometimes, it's the smallest sign, a persistent, unexplained itch, that turns out to be the most important thing of all. 4. Localized itching on the chest or breast area. It's easy to brush off an itch on your chest or near the breast as nothing important. Maybe it's the summer heat, a snug shirt, or just the way the fabric rubs against the skin. For most of my life, that's exactly what I thought. Even as I grew older and my skin grew thinner and more sensitive, I barely gave it a second thought. You tell yourself, it's probably just my bra, or maybe a little irritation from my detergent. You try a new lotion, switch to cotton, and move on. But sometimes, that itch doesn't move on with you. Sometimes, it lingers, focused, persistent, always in the same spot, and never fully relieved by scratching, creams, or any of the tricks you've gathered over a lifetime. It was just such an itch that started to bother my friend Ruth, a retired nurse who lived just down the street. She was 69 then, always the practical type, the first to dismiss a complaint as just a part of aging. But this was different, she told me one morning over coffee. The itch was always there, just under her right breast, no matter what she did. At first, she tried switching bras, blaming the elastic. Then she went without a bra altogether for a few days, thinking maybe it was the friction. She even changed laundry detergents. Twice. Still, the itch stayed. It was subtle, more of a deep tingling than a surface scratch. Some days it seemed a little warm, or the skin felt a bit thick or tight, but there was never a rash or redness, nothing visible to explain what she was feeling. Ruth said it was almost like her body was whispering to her, not shouting. After a few weeks of this, Ruth found herself lying awake at night, unconsciously rubbing her chest, restless and unsettled. Her mind would wander to the years she spent caring for others, her children, her patients, and she'd wonder if she was just overreacting. It's funny how we can be so attuned to other people's suffering, yet doubt our discomfort. But that's the thing about these small, subtle signs as we age. They're easy to dismiss, especially for those of us who pride ourselves on being tough. Eventually, Ruth went in for her yearly checkup. She almost didn't mention the itch, but when the doctor asked how she'd been, the words slipped out. "I keep having this odd, persistent itch right here," she said, placing her hand on her chest. "No rash, no lump, just an itch that won't quit." Her doctor nodded, asked a few more questions, and examined her closely. She noticed that the skin around Ruth's nipple looked a little thicker than usual, and there was a hint of dimpling that hadn't been there last year. That was enough to order further tests, a mammogram and then a biopsy. The news, when it came, was unexpected but clear. Ruth had a small but aggressive tumor growing near the surface of her breast. Not the classic lump you read about in pamphlets, but something called inflammatory breast cancer, a rare and fast-moving form that often hides behind symptoms like skin changes, tightness, or yes, persistent itching. Ruth was shocked. So was her family. She'd always thought cancer meant a lump, pain, or something dramatic and unmistakable. No one told her it might start as an itch that couldn't be soothed. Looking back, Ruth realized the itch was her body's earliest signal, a warning she'd almost ignored. It's not just women who need to be alert to this, either. While breast cancer is much more common in women, men can also experience it, often without ever suspecting it. For men, an itchy patch near the nipple, a small area of thickened skin, or a persistent twinge of discomfort under the chest muscle might not seem like much. It can be even easier to miss, simply because we're not taught to look for these things. But as we age, our bodies can surprise us, and the old rules don't always apply. Sometimes, itching in this area isn't from a tumor in the breast at all, but from nearby lymph nodes, under the arm, or just below the collarbone. Lymphoma or other cancers can cause local swelling and irritation that the skin registers as an itch, long before you see or feel anything more obvious. What makes this kind of itch unique is that it rarely moves around. It's almost always focused in the same place, unrelenting, resistant to the usual lotions and potions we keep in our medicine cabinets. Of course, most itching in this area is harmless. Sweat, mild irritation, or a little reaction to a new soap. But what sets the warning sign apart is its persistence and the way it refuses to budge, day after day, week after week. If it's always in the same spot, doesn't respond to moisturizer, and especially if you notice changes in the skin's texture, thickening, redness, warmth, or a feeling of heaviness underneath, don't ignore it. Early detection starts not with fancy technology, but with the awareness to notice what feels out of place. Ruth's story has a happy ending. Because she listened to her body's whispers, she caught her cancer early enough for aggressive treatment. The journey wasn't easy, but she tells everyone she meets now, at church, the grocery store, even in line at the pharmacy, to never brush off something that keeps returning. It's your body trying to get your attention, she says. Listen to it. You're never too old, too tough, or too busy to care for yourself. I think that's the real lesson for all of us. We've spent a lifetime caring for others, but now is the time to be gentle with ourselves. The skin over our hearts is thin, both literally and metaphorically. An itch that won't go away might just be dry skin, but it might also be the earliest sign that something deeper needs tending. Don't let embarrassment, doubt, or the worry of making a fuss keep you from getting checked. You've earned the right to advocate for your health. If you ever find yourself lying awake at night, rubbing the same spot, or noticing an itch that won't quit, jot it down. Notice how long it lasts, if anything makes it better or worse, and whether there are any other small changes. Bring it up, even if it feels silly. Doctors are trained to look for patterns, and you could be giving them the crucial clue that leads to early diagnosis. Remember, cancer doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, just a little itch, a bit of warmth, a texture you can't quite explain. The body's language can be subtle, especially as we grow older and its messages become quieter. Trust yourself. You've weathered storms, seen decades come and go, and learned when something's not quite right. You deserve answers, peace of mind, and the best possible care. The next time your hand drifts to that familiar spot on your chest, take a moment to listen. You've spent your life caring for so many. Now, let your body know you're listening, too. Because sometimes, the smallest signal, a stubborn, focused itch, can make all the difference between catching something early and letting it slip by. You are worth that attention, and you are worth every gentle reminder to live with awareness, courage, and hope. 5. Persistent itching in the anal or genital area. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. There's something about itching in the anal or genital area that many of us find difficult to talk about. It's a topic wrapped in embarrassment and discomfort, one that most prefer to keep quiet. But if you're a senior dealing with persistent itching in these sensitive regions, you're certainly not alone, and it's important to understand what your body might be trying to tell you. For years, I noticed a mild irritation that came and went. I told myself it was probably just dryness, or maybe a reaction to the soap I used. I blamed old age and hormonal changes, thinking it was normal for my skin to feel more sensitive. But as time passed, the itch didn't fade. Instead, it grew more intense and persistent, sometimes feeling raw or burning, especially at night. It was impossible to ignore, yet I hesitated to bring it up with anyone. Too awkward, too private. I recall the story of Eugene, a 76-year-old man who shared his experience at a support group meeting. For almost a year, Eugene suffered what he thought was hemorrhoid irritation. He tried creams, dietary changes, cold compresses, and even seeing a specialist. But the itching and discomfort never fully went away. It was frustrating and isolating. Eventually, after a thorough examination, doctors found a small lesion inside his anal canal, a tumor that had quietly begun to grow. Eugene's case is not unique. Persistent itching in the anal or genital region can sometimes be a subtle early symptom of cancers like anal cancer, vulvar cancer, or penile cancer. These cancers are more common in seniors than many realize, yet their early signs often mimic less serious conditions, leading to delayed diagnosis. What makes this kind of itch particularly tricky is how easily it can be mistaken for something minor. Dry skin, a reaction to toilet paper, friction from walking, or even irritation from incontinence pads. Many older adults assume the problem is hormonal or related to menopause, and while those can cause symptoms, they don't explain an itch that worsens over weeks or months and resists all usual treatments. The skin in these areas is full of nerve endings and highly sensitive. Because of this, any internal changes, whether from swelling, nerve inflammation, or the presence of abnormal cells, can trigger an itch long before other visible signs appear. Sometimes the skin might feel rougher, slightly discolored, or thinner than usual. Other times, there may be no visible changes at all, just a persistent discomfort that steals peace of mind. I've heard from many women who quietly endured this discomfort, blaming it on just getting older or nothing serious. They didn't want to talk about it or thought it wasn't worth the embarrassment. But silence can be dangerous. Like Eugene, some waited too long before seeking help, missing the chance for early intervention. If you've noticed an itch in this sensitive area that just won't go away, especially if it worsens at night or feels raw and burning, it's time to pay attention. Don't dismiss it, and don't let embarrassment stop you from speaking with your healthcare provider. Remember, your doctor has seen and heard it all. They're there to help, not to judge. Keeping track of how long the itch has lasted, what you've tried to relieve it, and any other symptoms, like swelling, lumps, or changes in skin color, can be valuable information for your doctor. Early detection makes a significant difference in treatment success and quality of life. It takes courage to bring up topics like this, but it's one of the most important steps you can take for your health. You deserve comfort, clarity, and the best possible care, no matter your age or the sensitivity of the issue. You've lived a full life, faced challenges with strength, and cared deeply for those around you. Now, permit yourself to listen to your body's signals, to advocate for yourself, and to seek answers. Sometimes, a persistent itch is more than just an annoyance. It can be the body's quiet plea for attention. And when you listen, when you act, you take back control and protect the life and health you've worked so hard to build. You deserve that peace of mind. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with a gentle but important reminder. Your body is always trying to communicate with you. Sometimes those messages come as loud alarms, but often they begin as small whispers, a persistent itch here, a subtle change there. The 5 areas we talked about today, the lower legs, the upper back, the scalp, the chest, and the genital region, aren't random places. They are signals, quiet alerts from within, that something may need your attention. It's easy to dismiss these signs, to think, it's just aging, or it's nothing serious. But your experience matters. Your instincts matter. When you notice something unusual, even if it seems minor or embarrassing, don't hesitate to speak up. Reach out to your doctor. Ask questions. Insist on answers. Because catching these signs early can make all the difference, not just in treatment, but in peace of mind. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. Now it's time to care for yourself with that same compassion and dedication. Remember, you deserve to live well, comfortably, and with confidence. Don't let small signs slip away unnoticed. Trust yourself, listen carefully, and take the steps you need to protect your health. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If any part of this message resonated with you, please share your thoughts below. Your stories and experiences are powerful. They inspire others to listen and act. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, we can build a community of awareness, support, and hope. Your health matters, always.